Hello and welcome to this David Icke Connector videocast. Well, we have seen much evidence in the last few days of the power of truth over lies. That may seem quite strange because it seems that at every turn, lies seem to trump truth. But if you look at it another way, the desperation of those in authority, or more to the point, the few in the shadows that dictate through authority, their desperation to shut down any alternative to the official narrative shows how terrified they are of the truth circulating. And so we're seeing this vast, daily more extreme censorship being imposed by the internet giants who, if you go further enough back into the shadows, are controlled by the same force to the same end. And we are seeing the mainstream media, which has always been a form of censorship, yes, but becoming more and more extreme and blatant in its censorship and its bias, and long leaving behind any semblance of what used to be called journalism. But it's more than that. Not even that is good enough. The terrifying thought that this few have about the truth circulating is so intense and so all-consuming for them that they have to squeeze every last source of information and view that challenges what they want people to believe. And so, for instance, we are seeing on one level in Britain the blatant, obvious, hello, attempt, now well advanced, to destroy the British Labour Party as an entity with any semblance of need for its existence. And then they come down to the individual. Got to silence everyone because they're so terrified of the truth. So I'm sitting here now in a tiny little office. You couldn't swing anything in without hitting something. In a one-bedroom flat on the Isle of Wight, one bloke, not connected to any organisation, any movement, any ism, none of it. And yet, what is it, 13,000 miles away? Those in authority are so terrified of me going to Australia and speaking my truth, circulating my truth, that they have been working for months to have me banned from the country, which currently they have succeeded in doing. And what's kind of amazing, because these people have no self-awareness. Well, most of them don't. Some of them know exactly what they're doing. But they keep telling me I'm wrong about saying that a tiny few people control the world and the direction of the world and world events that are society transforming. And then they go ahead and act in ways that prove me right. So I've been writing now for 30 years that the plan was coming to delete freedom of speech from the population for reasons I'll come to in a second. And they say, no, that's not true. No. And then they do it. I've been writing for most of that 30 years that there is an ultra-Zionist cabal. No, not Jewish people, not a Jewish plot. An ultra-Zionist cabal who actually have contempt for Jewish people, if the truth be told, and use them as a smokescreen for their own ends. I've been writing that there is this ultra-Zionist cabal which has enormous influence over events and governments, which is vastly, massively in excess of their number. For instance, the Jewish population in totality of the world is 0.2%. Yeah, I did say that, 0.2%. And the vast majority of that 0.2% are not the people I'm talking about. I'm talking about a tiny, tiny number of 0.2%. And not just them either. There's a whole global web that involves endless other people from different cultures and races and backgrounds. And then you look at Australia and you see that the totality of the Jewish population of Australia is 0.4%. And again, the vast majority of that number will not be doing or have the agenda of that tiny, tiny few I'm talking about. And what do people say? That's rubbish. That's an anti-Semitic trope. Two people, basically, out of 25 million Australians. A Zionist lawyer called Kate Ashmore and a bloke called Abramovich who runs something called the Anti-Defamation Commission, which, like all anti-defamation organisations, goes around defaming people. Those two are overwhelmingly the reason why 25 million Australians have been banned, because they have too, from having the choice to hear what I've got to say. So they say, that's an anti-Semitic trope. But you've just done it. It's just happened. I know it's just happened, and I know we've just done it, but you can't say we've just done it and it's just happened, because that's an anti-Semitic trope. That is the level, ladies and gentlemen, of ludicrous lunacy to which the world has descended, and more important, the human population have allowed it to descend. The reason that lies are so terrified of truth is because when there's a few of you and you want to control the many, you've got to control the perceptions of the population. Because from perceptions comes what people will do, won't do, their behaviour, what they'll support, what they won't support, what they'll oppose, what they won't oppose. All comes from perception. That's the stadium in which this whole conspiracy is played out, human perception. Got to control perception. And where does perception come from? Where do people get their perceptions, form their perceptions from? They do it from information received. So if you can control the information that people receive, then you are going to go a very long way to controlling their perceptions, which then controls their behavior. So perceptions is the foundation of everything. So this is why we are seeing this daily censorship increasing now, because this is the outcome, desired outcome. I've been saying this for so long. I mean, and look at it. The desired outcome is that eventually no one anywhere sees any information or hears any view in any number that is not what the authorities want people to see. Nothing. Only authority approved, actually, the few in the shadows controlling through authority, only what they want you to see so you'll have the right perception will anyone see or hear. That's the goal, that's the outcome, and we're seeing the journey. And all this censorship in all its forms and all this political correctness that's shutting people down from having any opinion on anything that the authorities know they can't win the debate on. If you have an opinion and you have an open debate, they can't win the debate. So what they do is they shut the debate down by silencing people who have a different opinion to the approved one. And this is what my ban from Australia is all about. This is what the constant, incessant attacks on the UK Labour Party are about in terms of anti-Semitism. It's shutting down the debate. It's a protection racket. A protection racket not to protect Jewish people from discrimination, but to protect this ultra-Zionist cabal and the psychopathic far-right government in Israel from legitimate criticism and exposure. And from a wider point of view, well beyond that, it's about silencing any information that exposes the fact that there is a web of control, ultimately dictated from the center by a ludicrously few people, that are dictating the direction of the world and manipulating world events that have a fundamental impact on the lives of every man, woman, and child on the planet. And this censorship is being done through intimidation and fear, because it's a tyranny. And what do tyrannies do? They impose their will through intimidation and fear. And so through political correctness and fear of saying anything that might upset anyone, the whole human discourse is being shut down. And it's being shut down systematically on purpose. So you obviously have the Googles and the Facebooks and the YouTube owned by Google shutting everything down, more and more and more censorship. And this is all part of this process of reaching a point where you only see and hear what the authorities, the few in the shadows controlling through authorities, want you to see and hear. So we've had, for instance, this week, the exposure by an insider, former employee of Facebook, that they are, again, systematically dictating what people see and hear by suppressing, deleting, censoring information that says something different. Because Facebook is a scam. Google is a scam. Google-owned YouTube is a scam to control the human discourse and the circulation of information to control the perceptions of the people. End of frickin' story, by the way. And so this week, we've had YouTube demonetizing all videos that are questioning vaccination. Big Pharma, that makes billions and billions and billions from vaccination, they can say whatever they bloody like. mums, fathers, little groups saying, hold on, we've done some research, have a look at this. No, demonetize them. Now, as I've been saying in my books over the years, and frankly been proved right, because it's not difficult to predict the future once you know what the outcome's designed to be, demonetization always precedes outright deletion and censorship. And that's what we've seen with the alternative media. First of all, they demonetize videos from the alternative media, then they start deleting whole channels of YouTube and Facebook pages, etc., etc. And one of the ludicrous reasons, one of the perhaps even in many ways the most outrageous reasons for me being banned from Australia, according to this ludicrous immigration minister, David Coleman, whose backbone is constantly vibrating because it's made of jelly. And he doesn't hear much because he's this humming sound around him all the time as his backbone bloody vibrates constantly and urgently, waiting for a telephone call to tell him what to do. Anyway, one of the reasons he gave for my ban was my views on vaccinations. I mean, just ponder on that alone. That big pharma, this vast pharmaceutical cartel, which without them, American television wouldn't exist because of the advertising from big pharma. They can have free rein to say what they like. They can vaccine damaged children. They can do what they bloody like. But one guy from a little flat in the Isle of Wight going over to Australia and saying something different, whoa, silence him. That is the power of truth over lies. And that is why they are terrified of it. And when you look at what the Nazis did and the Stalinists did and any tyranny did, they do exactly the same as these people are doing because they're a tyranny. So the Nazis burned the books of people that they didn't want their views and opinions and exposure of the Nazis to be circulating, so they burned the books and they shut down their public meetings. Same in Stalinist Russia and all the rest of it, because lies are always terrified of truth, and tyranny is always based on lies. Therefore, tyrannies are always terrified of truth. It's a constant dynamic running through human history. So you have to crush everyone. You have to crush them. I'm sure they get off on it, you know. Though it's a sexual activity to them. I must crush someone. Oh, he's a little person. He's a little person, and they have a different opinion to what we want people to believe. We must crush them, hate them, because that's the thing, you see. This is an Orwellian inversion. So they're shutting down truth to protect lies. So that's an inversion, obviously. But they're also hurling hate at their targets, not least me, in the name of combating hate. So I'm someone who, my philosophy on life is that we're all consciousness. In fact, we're all points of attention in the same consciousness. And that all these labels we give ourselves, Muslim, Jewish, British, white, black, sky blue, are just transitory labels for a short experience. It's not who we are. We're all points of attention in the same consciousness. It's the ultimate non-racist philosophy. There can't be one more non-racist than that. So what do they call me? Racist. It's the Orwellian inversion. It's a classic. What was that? Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi propaganda minister, he said, accuse your enemy of that which you are guilty, which is exactly what we're seeing. And so you have the British Labour Party. There are many people in the British Labour Party. There are many things about the British Labour Party I don't agree with. I was brought up in a Labour household on a council estate in Leicester, but there's many things about the Labour Party I don't agree with, many things that I have over the years. But for sure, whether they are misguided in the way they allow the system to manipulate them by, while at the same time believing they're anti-system, there are genuinely people in the Labour Party who are seriously anti-racist and have basically given over their lives to this whole anti-racist movement. There are people in the Labour Party who are Jewish, and they, anti-racists and Jewish people, are being thrown out of the Labour Party for being anti-Semitic. In other words, racist, if you follow the line. We have a situation where a Labour Party member who served in the Israeli Defence Forces was thrown out of the Labour Party for being anti-Semitic. So what does that tell us? It tells us that this whole anti-Semitic industry, what I call the protection racket, is not about protecting Jewish people at all. It's not even about Jewish people. They're just the smokescreen. They're just the people to be exploited so the tiny few can hide behind them and stop legitimate exposure and investigation into their behaviour and actions. If this whole anti-Semitism industry, the protection racket, was about protecting Jewish people from discrimination, then Jewish people that criticise Israel, like those thrown out of the Labour Party, would not be subject to abuse and hate even more virulent than that which is directed at those who are not Jewish. Why? Because it's much more difficult to label a Jewish person, though they bloody try in their idiocy, as anti-Semitic as it is a non-Jewish person. So they're very dangerous. And this whole anti-Semitic industry, the protection racket, like I say, it's nothing to do with Jewish people. It's part of this whole package of silencing people. So again, you say I'm wrong, and then prove me right. A tiny, tiny percentage of the British population is Jewish. The vast majority of that population is not trying to manipulate anybody. They're just getting on with their lives. But a tiny few that set up organisations that then claim to speak for everyone else when they don't. They then, through government and media, God, my God, pathetic media, then put so much pressure on the Labour Party that they start throwing out even Jewish people that criticise Israel. We've had a guy this week, Chris Williamson, MP for Derby North, who was caught on film, oh, we got him now, saying that actually he thought that the Labour Party has been too apologetic about these claims of anti-Semitism. They've just suspended him. The Labour Party suspended him for having an opinion that's not only true, by the way, but even if it wasn't, he has a right to it. No, not in the new get on your knees and beg for forgiveness Labour Party, which should be representing vigorously the working masses of Britain, but instead is on its knees to a tiny, tiny, tiny few, which are dictating its direction, its actions. And I was reading today, something like 500 Labour MPs have written an open letter apologising to the Jewish community. What about the working masses that you're supposed to be representing? Eh? Oh yeah, forgot about them. Yeah, exactly. And there's an organisation within the Labour Party called Momentum, owned by Zionists, set up by Zionists. And they are desperate to delete any idea of any kind of conspiracy. Of course, they're left-wing radicals. So why would they ever think that there was some far-right conspiracy to oppress the population? They'd never do that. Of course they don't, because they're left-wing radicals, apparently. Momentum, pathetically, has protested at my events here and there. But they put out a video this week in which they are basically trashing any idea of a conspiracy, any idea that the Rothschild dynasty could be involved in it, and saying that those that say there's a global conspiracy, they just want you to hate Jews. There's a common theme here, isn't there? Has anyone in the Labour Party maybe asked themselves, what is this Momentum organisation? It was created, is owned by a Zionist who has come out and said, oh, there's an anti-Semitic problem in the Labour Party, all pushing this line. Now they're saying, putting out videos, saying, oh no, any idea of a conspiracy that involving the Rothschilds or anybody like that's just to hate Jews. Did I mention that lies are terrified of truth? And the guy that fronts up this video, clueless bloke, who has no idea how the whole conspiracy works, he's saying, the Rothschilds are not as rich as they say they are. How do you know that? Well, they're not in Forbes magazine. So if you're manipulating on a vast scale, and it's not just the Rothschilds, they're part of it, many others who are not Jewish, but the Rothschilds are Jewish, you see. So you must be anti-Semitic. Mention someone else from another country who's not Jewish. Oh, that's all right. What is that, by the way? Racism. Reverse racism, that's what it is. Anyway. Does this bloke think that if you're manipulating on a global scale, that you're going to put the scale of your wealth and control on public display so it appears in the Forbes rich list? What? This is the naivety. I do, recommend that you can go to davidicke.com and watch this Facebook video by this bloke from Momentum and just see how extraordinary it is. And the other thing in the conspiracy theories are about hating Jews mentions George Soros. Now, George Soros, the multi-billionaire, has so far handed over about $32 billion to his Open Society foundations that operate in 100 countries and have been exposed again and again, not least right through leaked documents and leaked emails, for manipulating societies in different countries to a particular end, right? All there. No. George Soros is Jewish, so he can't be doing that. It must be you want to hate Jews. I couldn't care less if George Soros is he's out to Mongolian. Couldn't care less. I care about what he's doing. Oh, by the way, I found a way around it. What I'm going to do from now on is I'm going to crack on that George Soros is Chinese. I've worked it all out. He comes from the Wing Wong Soroses, that line. It goes back to the Ming Dynasty and a long history in China, George Soros. So I'm going to make out from now on that George Soros is Chinese. He's not. He has no connection to the Ming Dynasty, as far as I know, but it makes your life easier. Because if George Soros was Chinese, or anywhere almost, and you were saying he was doing what he's doing, not a problem. But he's Jewish. You're anti-Semitic. You just want to hate Jews. Now, this is how the protection racket works. Because it means that a whole group of people are off limits for any criticism, any exposure, because the protection racket works like that. And if you are Jewish and you are exposing what a few people are doing, then you are also subject to even more abuse than anyone else, for reasons I've explained. And this whole war on people with a alternative view of the world, which we're not saying people should believe, we're saying here's some information, have a look at it, if you choose to look at it, and then come to your own conclusions. I'm not trying to get anyone to believe anything. Just say, hey, there's another way of looking at the world. And I know from my experience, and this is what they're terrified of, that when people do have access to this information, access to this other way of looking at the world and world events, they go, whoa, that makes so much sense. That's what they don't want. That's why they want to shut it down. And so now there is this war on what they call conspiracy theorists. And conspiracy theories, terms that I've said many times before, that were brought into widespread use by the CIA, trying to discredit people who were not accepting the official version, brackets, ludicrous, of the Kennedy assassination. But we've reached a new low this week. You never thought we would reach a new low, but we have. This is this is a story that was in the Daily Mail. Strap in. Conspiracy theorists are more likely to be criminals and to approve of other forms of antisocial behaviour, study reveals for first time. It's called Desperate. It's like the Momentum video. It's called Desperate because people are waking up. People are starting to see what's going on. People are starting to question authority. They're starting to see that actually the world's not like they thought it was. And thus, these people are now desperate. So they go to the levels of the Momentum video and they go to these levels. Extraordinary levels. By someone called Jessica Green and Yuan Ren. I wonder how they were able to write this whilst being in hysterics and still hitting the keys. They must have been, surely. Those who subscribe to outrageous conspiracy theories are always outrageous. No one ever says, well, hold on a minute, let's look at the facts. Is it true? No, it's conspiracy theory. Why? Because it's saying something different to what the authorities want you to believe. So, those who subscribe to outrageous conspiracy theories are more likely to commit low-level crime, a new study has found. That's right. When I finish this, I'm gonna go and rob the corner shop. It's just my personality. Belief in such ideas, like the theory that Princess Diana was murdered by the British establishment. I mean, why would they want to murder someone who was really a problem, becoming a bigger problem for the British establishment? Why would the British establishment want to murder? They had no motive whatsoever. Has often been associated with negative outcomes, such as political disengagement, means you know that politics is a scam and we live in a one-party state with different masks on that same face called different names of political parties. I mean, Labour Party, Conservative Party, Liberal Party, Democrats, Republicans, one-party state. Prejudice and environmental inaction. It means you don't believe the hoax that human activity is causing massive changes in the climate and global warming. And you don't believe that carbon dioxide is a pollutant when without it we'd all be dead. That's what they mean. And now psychologists from the universities of Kent and Staffordshire, ooh, they must be intelligent, suggest it could also make people more inclined to be involved in antisocial and unethical acts. Whoa. Condemn them. Except, what conspiracy theorists are exposing, what I've exposed massively myself, is how wars that kill and maim and destroy the lives of tens of millions, over time, hundreds of millions, are coldly, calculatedly manipulated to happen because nothing changes a country or a world more totally and irreversibly than a war. To expose that is unethical because, of course, the ethical people are those that support the bloody wars. These actions, say these ludicrous people, include petty crime, such as trying to claim for replacement items, refunds, or compensation from a shop when they're not entitled to do so. I do it all the time. A second study showed that those who were exposed to conspiracy theories during the experiment were immediately more accepting of low-level crime. A second study showed that low-level crime, but funny enough, I'm not more accepting of low-level crime, and I'm supposed to be one of the world's best-known conspiracy theorists. Professor Karen Douglas, ooh, very intelligent, of Kent School of Psychology. I've never met a psychologist that didn't need one, frankly, but everyone to their own. Said, people who believe in conspiracy theories, such as the theory that Princess Diana was murdered by the British establishment, are more likely to accept or engage in everyday criminal activity. What's her name? Professor Douglas. Have you ever looked into the background to the murder of Diana and looked at the facts? No. Too busy saying conspiracy theorists are more likely to rob the corner shop. Our research has shown for the first time the role that conspiracy theories can play in determining an individual's attitude to everyday crime. It demonstrates that people subscribing to the view that others have conspired might be more inclined towards unethical actions. Professor Douglas, do you actually get paid for this shite? Whatever it is, it's too much. Oh, there's another one. Dr. Dan Jolly of Staffordshire University, another brain of bloody Britain. He said, people believing in conspiracy theories are more likely to be accepting of everyday crime, while exposure to theories increases a feeling of anomie, which in turn predicts increased future everyday crime intentions. The study, entitled Belief in Conspiracy Theories and Intentions to Engage in Everyday Crime, and published by the British Journal of Social Psychology, was performed in two parts with two separate groups of people. Well, thanks for that, chap, and I'll be studying it in detail. What we are seeing and what we are going to see more and more are vicious attacks on the character and on the ability to circulate information, on those that have had the self-awareness and the basic intelligence. These people ought to try it. that governments and authorities lie to us. That's what conspiracy theory is in its foundation. It's saying, and most of it's not theory, by the way, but they wouldn't know because they never look. It's saying in its foundation, authorities lie to us. The whole history of authority, going back into ancient times, is that authority lies to the rest of the population. Thus, when authority says something, this is what happened, this is how it is, people with intelligence question that and see if it stands up. And overwhelmingly, it doesn't. Why? Because authorities lie to us. That basic intelligence is called conspiracy theories and conspiracy theorists, and they are marginalized, and increasingly this war against their character. If you don't question that, if you don't question what authority says, if you don't check the facts and see if they stand up and then communicate the fact that they don't, you are called a mainstream journalist. This is the inversion. The real journalism questions the authority. The fake journalism, mainstream journalism, does not question authority. And I remember I was on a television program, BBC television program, with a bloke called Andrew Neil. And there was a fella on there called Michael Portillo, and I was talking about conspiracy theories. And he said, oh, because he's a pompous bloke. Oh, well, you know, I just think that conspiracy theories are like intellectually lazy. And I said to him, have you ever read in my books, some of which are kind of rather thick? No. How do you know they're intellectually lazy? Of course he doesn't. But what is more intellectually lazy than accepting the official story of everything without question, like Portillo? Questioning what we're told, investigating to see if it stands up, is again an inversion of being intellectually lazy. And I, in the last few days, have been interviewed on the mainstream media in Australia. And you know, Australian media, my God, it's got some competition. The Australian mainstream media is among the most ridiculous in the world, really. I mean, it's absolutely on a par with America, and my God, that's saying something. Every time I've interviewed on the mainstream media, I talk to morons. I did so the last time I went in some breakfast show on Channel 9. I spoke to some three moronic people at this time on a morning show on Channel 10. Another moronic bloke on a radio station. And yet, when I talk to the alternative media, I talk to intelligent people. In fact, I was interviewed about 2 hours before my visa was revoked by a Jewish Australian journalist called Eve Fisher. Extremely bright journalist, proper journalist, works in the mainstream. God, it must be a nightmare. And she was kind of laughing at the idea that I've been called anti-Semitic, because she's actually read my books, unlike these other people. And anyway, my visa gets revoked, and then she writes an article defending me and talking about, hey, what the hell has happened to free speech in Australia? And Murdoch's newspapers, who libelled me, wouldn't run it. The Fairfax Group media operation wouldn't run it. And the UK Guardian wouldn't run it. Why? Because it was defending freedom of speech, and it was defending me, who they want to destroy. That'll be the frickin' day. This is the scale that we're looking at. So the point is, forget about politics. Ain't going to change anything. I mean, the Labour Party, look at them. Actually, look at them. They're down on their bloody knees all the time. Oh, forgive me for having an opinion. Forget the mainstream media. Bloody hell. Crikey. How they look in the mirror to shave every morning, I never know. They must kind of avert their eyes, surely, in terms of self-respect. So it's down to us. And it's down to us stopping the acquiescence to authority and intimidation. When people tell us what we can't say, we should shout it louder. Because, we're going down a road here that even eclipsed what Orwell was talking about. And if we don't draw the line now, it ain't going to stop. It's just going to get worse. That's the idea. It's getting worse by the day. And crucially, stop, for goodness sake, apologizing for having an opinion or speaking a blatant, factually supportable truth. It's good that the Labour MP, Chris Williamson, had the opinion that, hey, we've been too apologetic over this we're all anti-Semite stuff. But Chris, don't fricking apologise when you get pushback. You're always going to get pushback because they want to shut down any opinion that's outside the acceptable range of you must only see this. Don't apologise. Shout it louder. So you get suspended. So what? There's more important things about than not being suspended by a ludicrous, increasingly Zionist-owned, Israel-owned Labour Party. There's quite a few things that actually are more important than that. And we had this lady, Ilhan Omar, in America, who came out and said that Zionist money was having a big influence on American politics. Now that, when you do the research, is one of the most factually supportable things anyone could ever say. But when they kick back, of course they're going to kick back. What do you think they're going to do? Break into a round of applause? She apologised. Why? It's factually correct. Provable. And that's what they're doing now, you see. They're targeting everyone. This lady from Human Rights Watch who talked about the Zionist influence on UK politics. Again, the kickback, the abuse followed, of course, because they're desperate that things like that are not subject to open debate. And by the way, she was posting or reposting or something, an article by a website called the Electric Intifada. And the point of the article was saying another stage, another extreme attack on the Labour Party for being anti-Semitic is coming. What happened? It came. It's happening now. You can't say it's happening now, even though it's happening now, because that's anti-Semitic. Ladies and gentlemen, we have got to get off our frickin' knees. Some of us already have, because we refused to go down there in the first place. What do you think the world is going to be like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when you see the speed of destruction of freedom every day? Where do you think the world is going to be for your children and your grandchildren and their lifetime? Where do you think it's going to be when you look where it is now? No more excuses. Oh, I better not say this, better not do that. What will they say? Who cares? Look your children in the eye, your grandchildren in the eye, and tell them that it matters what other people think of you. We have got to get off our knees, or we are condemning the human race to be there permanently. In my case, once again, that'll be the bloody day.
every single event that we've done anywhere in the world, there's been certain groups that have contacted venues, made outrageous libelous claims about what David's going to speak about, and have, in many cases, got venues to cancel on us.
They tell the organisers that I'm going to go on the stage and I'm going to say a stream of racist things, none of which I have ever said, none of which am I ever going to say. What then happens, staggeringly, is that instead of coming to you and saying, well, these people have said you're going to say this, you're going to say that, what's going on? They pull the event. And we hear about the event we've been organising for months being cancelled. We hear about it in the media.
In Germany alone, for example, I've been in touch with over 70 venues, and we've still never managed to pull off a Germany show. And there's a venue that we had in Berlin, which to this day, nigh on well over a year, have never actually contacted me to tell me the event's been cancelled. I found out from a German newspaper when they published a story about it.
And my website is blocked in schools and universities and colleges. It's blocked in government departments and government agencies. And here's me, one person, who was supposed to be this great nutter, and the system is desperate to silence what I'm putting out and to stop as many people as possible ever hearing it. Why?